Good evening, I'm Marty Olson and welcome to another edition of City Focus. And tonight I'm pleased to have with me a gentleman who's been on, I don't know, at least two other times. My good friend Bill Morse, who serves on the New London Board of Education. And I know a year ago when you served as president of the board, I had you on at least twice. And I'm delighted to have you on again. You've been in the news a little bit regarding some of the issues of the day, and I thought your take on things would be kind of make for an interesting conversation. So I want to welcome you back.
Well, thanks for the invitation, Marty.
For those who aren't aware, Bill has served one term on the New London City Council, and he's currently on his third term on the Board of Ed. So he's got a pretty good history and experience in serving the city. He initially ran for city council a number of years ago as a Republican unsuccessfully. He was elected to the council as a Democrat, and in a re-election bid for council was unsuccessful, and then he moved over to the Board of Education. He's had 6 consecutive years, or will be 6 consecutive years at the end of this term.
That's correct.
So but tonight the topic will be education, and before we get into the conversation in any depth, I would like to mention, and I think it's appropriate this evening, we have a couple of students that are working in the control room in the back representing the Drop-In Learning Center. Azelle Morales, who's an 8th grade student at the Isaac School, and Dakia James, who's a 7th grade student at Benny Dover Jackson Middle School here in New London. And these youngsters have worked here before on this program, and they do a nice job, and I'm hoping that they're gaining some insight and experience into the production work of putting on a live TV program.
Cool.
Also, as most of the time, we're live, and we are taking phone calls this evening, so if you'd like to participate in the program, please feel free. Numbers are on the screen, and you can reach us at 860-440-3154, or if you're outside of our local calling area, you can call 800-253-2285. So if you have any comments, questions, or thoughts on the New London educational system and the issues that are going on. Let's start off, Bill, with our special master. We have Dr. Stephen Adamowski, who's been appointed by the state.
That's correct.
State Board of Education to oversee our educational district here in New London, and he's been in place now for a year or better than a year now.
Just almost a year, not quite.
And from your perspective, has his presence been effective? Are we getting results? Are we getting the desired results? What's your take on his presence here in New London?
Well, excuse me. As you may remember, Marty, I was part of the push to have increased the level of state involvement locally in education, because myself as well as others realized that we could not sustain or keep going a school system, let alone a viable school system that educated children the way they should be here in New London. We have a lack of resources. We have an aging school plant. And those issues are slowly being addressed through assistance of the state, as well as a magnet school plan, which seems, I believe, is the best option that lays ahead for New London to come up with a school system that adequately educates, that brings in strengths from the surrounding community, students, because it's a magnet program, it attracts students from outside of New London, and it also gives us access to state resources in the form of materials, schools, updating the physical plants that we have, and we could not do this on our own. We have a tax base that has not significantly grown. We've had an exodus of the families that normally are needed for a strong school system, parent-driven. And so to counter the fact that we are small and that we are shrinking and our resources are shrinking or at best staying the status quo, we need help, and we need a plan that's going to bring us to where we need to be as far as the level of education that we offer in our schools.
Now, do you feel that Dr. Adamowski's primary charge is to institute this magnet school district plan, or is that what he was primarily brought in for, or was he brought in to try to calm some waters between the board and the superintendent slash administration?
He was brought in, and again with my support, to do two things: to guide us towards a sustainable school system that properly serves the community, and to, as you say, calm the waters, to make a more effective, to bring about a more effective relationship, a more effectively working administration, and a more effectively working Board of Education. I don't see the deficit of effort or comprehension being just on one side. I saw both sides, the administration and the school board, needing some attention and needing some focus, courtesy of the state.
That stated, do you feel that that Dr. Adamowski has been effective in your perception of what his charge is and continues to be, and how much longer should we expect him to be overseeing our district through the end of this electoral term, or is he here?
He will be here for 3 years.
3 years.
He will be here for 3 years. He will be here longer if the State Board of Education, which reads his reports, deems it necessary, because the state is investing a lot of money into New London in the form of magnet school construction, materials, training, and it's in the state's best interest to see this work. New London is very unique in that we will be the only all-magnet district. We are the only municipality that has that authority, has permission from the state to be an all-magnet district. And I think the reason behind that is because we are small, 6 square miles, much of that now devoid of neighborhoods. And
well, we don't have any neighborhood schools left, so to speak.
No, and unfortunately, through economics, that's the way things have gotten. Education has gotten to be very expensive because you're having to service a very diverse population of needs. And so we need the additional help. We can't support our own schools. We need this influx of resources, of funding from the state, and in return we are becoming more porous as a district, bringing in students from outside the district to our magnet schools. And so we're doing two things here. We're aiming towards a sustainable school system that may take care of itself financially, all right, through the magnet formula of state aid per student. And we're also complying with Sheff versus O'Neill, where we're desegregating, or we're moving towards a more integrated student population by having students outside of New London attend classes here.
Okay. Bill, we've got a couple of calls, so why don't we go to the phones and we can see what our folks watching have to say. Good evening, and you're on the air.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. Well,
Hey,
Mr.
Ray.
Morse just pushed one of my favorite buttons, and that's the matter of the Shep versus O'Neill decision many years ago. And the fact of the matter is, it wasn't upon the cities to provide equal opportunity. It was upon the suburbs to provide equal opportunity. And it was upon the state to make sure that every student in the state had an equal opportunity for the same educational advantages. And the state has fallen down miserably for the last 2.5 decades, and I think that they absolutely have failed to even come close to the Shep O'Neill decision, and that's just ridiculous. I think that they've done a really bad job. Now, having said that, I agree with what he said about, well, you know, if you can't get them to do their end of it, maybe we can figure out how to do it and, you know, bring it to them. And that's what the magnet thing is doing to a certain degree. But I still don't think that that meets the spirit of the Shep v. O'Neill decision. But on the other side, if that gets us more money, cleaner schools and newer buildings, and the state's willing to pay for it, then I guess, you know, in the meantime, that may work. So that isn't why I called. First, I want to thank Mr. Morse for his timely service on the school board and being a voice of reason on probably one of the most thankless jobs in the city. Being on the school board is tough. It's not fun, and you just kind of got to have a dedication to do it. So in that respect, I guess my hat's off to all the members of the board, but I think Bill has been a voice of reason, and I know we have elections coming in the fall, and I certainly wouldn't put him on the spot, but I hope he will reconsider running for the school board, even though it pays nothing and it is thankless, but he's been a good voice for the kids. And I think I would like to see him, even though he's, you know, one of the other party, I would still support him and encourage him to run because I think he's been a good voice for the kids. Moving right along, Olsen,
Yes.
what's your story? You running for city council or not? Those Republicans being stupid, or are they going to let you go? What's the story? Fill us in.
Well, I think you need to ask that question to the party leadership. I have been to the last couple of town committee meetings, and we'll see what the future portends. But
You're being politically correct. Let me tell you what the story is. The story is this. In the last 30 years, there's only 12 Republicans that figured out how to win a seat on the city council. And Bill Vogel's not one of them, and neither is most of the other people that have been town chairman over the last 30 years. And it seems like every time they get somebody that knows how to win, they're not sure if they want them. Well, good. Keep running losers, and you'll continue to get what you get. So I encourage you to make sure your hat's in the ring, Olsen, and if the Republican Town Committee doesn't endorse you, shame on them. That's my 2 cents.
Well,
you
thank
guys
you
have
for,
a good night.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you for calling.
And thank you for your support and kind words. Also a former school board member and city councilor.
Exactly.
I wanted to follow up on the issue of the magnet school district, in that a concern that I have, and I will admit to being skeptical of this program, is that is it going to assist our students here in New London? So we bring in, and let's look on the bright side, the numbers work, and we attract the level of student body participation from our neighboring communities to drive this program the way it's designed to be run.
We can talk about design, because I think you touched on an area that most people are not aware of, and what exactly will this look like?
Yeah. And
what are the pathways
Yeah.
that a student may follow from K through 12?
Mm-hmm. And you know, are our students in New London, you know, are all boats going to rise with this tide, or are the New London kids going to be down here? The district scores go up because we're bringing in out-of-town students.
I think the tide is going to bring all the boats up. because as the gentleman who just called mentioned, you're having new schools, you're having better trained teachers, better quality instruction, better, I think you're going to see a more timely reaction to students who have academic deficits. In other words, students that need help, students that are falling behind. If I may just go on a sidetrack and explain the three pathways that we're looking at. New London Schools will offer the pathway of arts and humanities, starting at Nathan Hale, which I am happy to announce will be opening August 28th. The first day of school, Nathan Hale, the new Nathan Hale, will be open. And that's wonderful news. We're going to open on time. Academic year 2013-2014, that new building, new facility will be open. That's good news. Considering some abatement issues that were there. Students will continue an arts and humanity pathway through an academy at the middle school. And they will continue in high school through another academy, which the Guard Arts Center is heavily patronizing and sponsoring. And that will actually be taking place downtown. Now, second pathway will be science and technology, starting at Winthrop, continuing through an academy at the middle school, and then following up at the high school level with the STEM, magnet, science, technology, magnet high school that we currently have in place. And then the third pathway, K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade, will be world language, starting with Jennings, going through another academy, third academy at the middle school. The middle school will be reconfigured to channel what is coming from the three elementary schools.
What you're laying out, Bill, is a middle school that in essence is going to be running almost three independent magnet schools.
Yes, but there are certain commonalities. You're still going to have English. You're still going to have social studies. When we say magnet, you're still going to have your reading, writing, arithmetic, but you're also going to have an emphasis or a vein of reading, writing, and arithmetic geared towards arts and humanities, geared towards second, third language acquisition, geared towards science and technology. So the main subjects will still be taught because they're required by the state. They're part of the state curriculum. But there will be an emphasis on these three different pathway areas. So it's unique. It's nothing else that's being offered in the area. And so far, so good. Winthrop, we have filled the seats that were set aside for out-of-district students. In fact, there's a waiting list for next year of out-of-district students who want to go to Winthrop.
And how about in-district students who want to go to Winthrop?
It's a lottery system. And
Are we accommodating all who want to go, or no?
we're trying to. Hopefully, and I believe this is what's driving the numbers and the size of the classroom space, you will take care of the New London students that want to choose between one of the three. And the remaining seats will be filled by out-of-district students. And we will have that percentage of 20%, I believe, that are out-of-district that need to be in the school in order for it to be an effective magnet school in the eyes of the state.
Now, we're losing the principal at the Winthrop School. She's retiring, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Jay Wilson, who has been a part of the New London fabric, who's an alumni of our school system, who's a very hard worker, who is very compassionate and loves the children she's responsible for is retiring. And her dean, Michelle Han, who was the principal at Harbor School, will be taking Jay's place.
And apparently the administration feels comfortable that that change with this administration, as the district is in transition, will be a seamless, so to speak.
As seamless as possible. In that you're bringing in people who are familiar with the students, familiar with the plan, familiar with the facility, and familiar with the other people that they'll be working with in the district.
Our caller earlier touched on the elections coming up this fall, and he kind of indicated that he'd like to see you reconsider and put your hat back in the ring, which would lend one to believe that you have decided or contemplating to not seek re-election. Is that, would you care to talk about that?
Well, it's true. I don't have plans to run for re-election. The idea being perhaps I'd like to see somebody else with the commitment, with the tenacity, with the patience, with the drive, and the fair-headedness, consider running for the board and give somebody else a chance and let another person step in. Perhaps someone who's watching this program.
Well, time will tell.
We do have a growing parent group. There's a core of about 8 people, 8 parents that have been attending our board meetings, and I believe 2 of them will be looking to run for election on the board.
Mm-hmm. Now, in that same vein, it was recently published and reported that the current president of the board, Peg Curtin, has appointed a committee of some sorts.
An advisory committee, that's correct.
Are you able to kind of explain what this is about? What's their charge? I mean, I'm not clear as to what's going on here.
This came out of the training. Just to give people a little background, one of the obligations the board has with regards to the state and the state's largesse with its resources is that we attend training. And in one of the training sessions, the training sessions are every month for about 3 or 4 hours. And out of a recent training session was the idea of having a non-voting advisory committee made up of different people from the community. I believe the chair came up with the names. All the names I recognize, so these are people I'm familiar with. And just to advise the board on certain matters when the chair or when a sufficient number of board members deems it necessary.
So it was appointed by the chair then. So as a board member, you had no input on terms of any of the appointments?
If I chose to have input, I would have had input.
That suggests that you opted to not offer any input on that?
No. This is purely advisory, and there was a cross-section of people that I thought was fine. I mean, they're not just from one section of our community. It's difficult because you're always going to have people that are left out. You can only have so many people, otherwise it gets unwieldy, as you know. Large committees can be that way. Mm-hmm. And you can either end a member of this advisory committee, and I have already sat and talked about one of the issues you wish to discuss, which is the Renzulli Academy. So I've already benefited from some of the feedback from this group.
Well, let's segue into the Renzulli Academy, and this has been something that's been publicly discussed now for 2 or 3 months.
Yes, a couple of months.
And I'm going to let you, because you're in a much stronger position, and outline what this program is about, the benefits that it's supposed to be offering for the selected districts to derive, and how it would work. This was rejected recently on a 4-3 vote.
Last Thursday.
That you and Jason Catala and Barbara Major were on the short end and supported it. And we had Mrs. Potter, Mrs. Muse, Ms. Curtin, and who am I missing? There was a 4th vote.
Ms. Garcia-Gonzalez.
Yes, voting to not support this program, at least as it's currently constituted. And I don't know what kind of timeline you guys are on in terms of making this happen or not. If it's a dead horse, or does this
No,
have
it's not a
some
dead
life?
horse. It has some life. The people who voted against this wanted more information in a written format, and I can understand that. Just to give people a little background on this, the board a few years ago, for budget reasons, eliminated or decided not to fund the gifted and talented teacher who would go and actually pull students out of class and give them a program that was at a different level of thinking. And that stopped. So we are required by state law to identify students that are gifted and talented. And that in itself has been a subject of discussion. How exactly do you screen or identify who is gifted and talented? So that was part of the discussion Thursday night. And myself included and a number of others were not totally satisfied with the selection process of which students are picked for this. Okay?
That's in general, not necessarily in relation to this program. Or is that in relation to this program?
Well, I think it's in general. Whether you have a gifted and talented program through this Renzulli concept, or you come up with your own gifted and talented, how are you going to decide who's gifted and talented? What they've been doing is using CMT, Connecticut Mastery Test, which is an academic test, as a measuring stick. And the questions were, is this really an effective way of showing students with potential, students who do well academically? If we're looking for students who have creative talent, is this a good way to measure it? Well, according to the State Department of Education, no. It should not be a contributing factor in selecting who's going to be in this program and who isn't. So I think the board is looking for a different selection process. And some of us, myself included, had concerns. What about English language learners? Do you take into account someone whose first language is not English, who has great potential, but their English may be limited at this time? So we had a person from the administration address these concerns, but it was done verbally. I think most of the board was expecting to see something in a written format, and that's why it was rejected. I don't see it as a dead issue. I think it will come back. I think the administration will have to come down and pretty much in writing outline what their plan is to implement this program. And I think that's much more important than having Dr. Renzulli come down with more students, because I don't think you're going to get much more mileage with the board or the public with that presentation. That's fine. They've made their point. I think people are concerned about how this program would be implemented locally and wanted some more information from the administration. So I suspect that the administration is preparing something written, okay, because that's what the chair and a number of other board members have asked. I voted to go ahead with the idea anyway because I did not want this to die. I was afraid that a no vote would end any chance of having a gifted and talented program. And I feel, let me finish,
Yep.
Larry. And I feel that this is a pilot program, a class out of the 4th grade, a class out of the 5th grade, a class out of the 6th grade, and that because it's a pilot program, it can be fine-tuned.
Mm-hmm.
It can be modified to be more effective and to be more fair.
How would this dovetail into the magnet school concept? Or does it?
That is an excellent question, and that is something that would have to be addressed should this go beyond a pilot stage. If this becomes an ongoing, which is what people are hoping for, an ongoing program, then it will have to dovetail into one of the 3 pathways so that we're not operating on a tangent, we're pulling in the same direction.
Well, it's a lot of interesting things are going on for sure. Folks, I'd like to remind you that you're watching City Focus, and I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm being joined tonight by New London Board of Education member Bill Morse. So if you'd like to participate in the program, or if you've been watching and you've got any thoughts or questions on the topics we've been chatting about, please feel free to give us a call. We can be reached locally at 860-440-3154, or if you're out of the local calling area, we can be reached at 800-253-2285. Interesting times with the schools, that's for sure. We also have our superintendent. His contract was up for I guess, an automatic renewal. I forget the term that you...
Evergreen clause.
Evergreen clause in his contract. And the board, on a 6-to-1 vote, opted to not renew or continue, with you being the lone dissenting vote. I'd kind of like you to maybe discuss your position and how this evergreen clause works. And I think people need to recognize as well is that the superintendent has not been terminated. He's still working and will be continuing to work for a period of time, assuming that this vote stands the test of time. And if it was to be overturned, what would be the ramifications? I'm not holding my breath on that. It's just more for conversational purposes at the moment. But
couple of things. Many superintendents have an evergreen clause in their contract. What it means is every April, if the board decides to do nothing, not to vote on non-renewal, the contract automatically is renewed another year. That's within a 3-year contract. Okay? The 3-year contract ends next year, June 30th, 2014. So Dr. Fisher, our superintendent, will be with us until June 30th, 2014. Had the board voted to extend his contract would have been extended 1 more year till June 30th, 2015. Okay? Now, why did I vote to extend a contract? Okay. What I was looking at, and I've been looking at since I've been on the board, is how are we doing in increasing literacy? How are we getting more students to read? How are we getting more students to decipher, to manipulate the media so that they can gain knowledge and a sense of empowerment from the media? Because frankly, if you don't know how to read, you're done. You're done. And the greatest disservice a school system can do is to turn out graduates who cannot read, cannot manipulate the media that we all live and breathe. communication. We have made, and it takes, in all fairness, it takes a superintendent a good 2 years to get programs in place that he or she believes will make a difference, getting the right people working for them, and seeing the fruits of these seeds that have been planted. It takes a good 2 to 3 years. And 2 to 3 years, with the leadership of the superintendent, we started seeing results. Results through CAP testing at the high school, results through CMT testing at the middle school and the elementary schools. Reading achievement has gone up. We are now approaching levels of proficiency, which means okay, and goal, which is where we should all be. Goal is where you need to be for your grade level. That's set by the state. We're finally getting away from scores that put us with other troubled urban areas. Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, and we're getting more towards the scores you would see in Norwich, maybe Groton, okay, with our reading and our math.
So you're seeing a level of improvement that you're comfortable with, and you attribute.
I'm comfortable with the change, and I would expect the change to continue, the growth. I'm comfortable with the growth. I'm comfortable with the growth last year, and I expect that growth to increase when we see the results this summer from the testing that occurred this past spring in March. If the growth wasn't there, if our academics, our reading and our math remained flat or took a dip, I would be the first person to ask for a change in leadership. Second thing, we are going through
Just quickly, we do have a call, and I appreciate your patience in waiting, but I'd like to give Bill an opportunity to respond to this question.
Second thing, too, is we're going through an important stage in the evolution of New London schools. We're going to an all-magnet district. We have the state watching the board, watching the administration, and funding us where possible. We need consistency. To bring in a new person from the outside at this stage would cost us time and momentum. We don't have that. I have issues with certain leadership characteristics, but I'm looking at the main prize here, and that is literacy, math, academic achievement, and it's coming. The rest of the stuff, while important, takes a back seat to that, in my opinion. The communications issues are there. The lack of trust is there. Whereas I'm not ignoring them, I also do not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose this precious growth in academics and literacy that we've spent a lot of time and effort trying to put together. Us being the administration, the teachers, the board, and the students and the parents that have been part of this. And I just thought the timing is lousy for that kind of a change. And there are issues that need to be worked on, the trust issue, the communication issue, but they can be worked on in the interim.
Okay, let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the air, and I want to thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Yes, you're on the air.
Hi. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
I disagree with...
You disagree with what,
With-
caller?
With Mr. Morse. I do believe that when you have a distrust and you have communication issues, rather than just let it fester, maybe it's time to move on. I believe that there was no evergreen on the table this year because we did not vote to renew last year.
Okay.
And so I kind of just, I understand what he's saying. We want consistency, but most superintendents only serve 5 years.
And he will have 5 years.
Is he into his
It
tenure?
will be 5 years in June.
It will be 5 years in June
It will be
of
5 years in
2014.
June, and I personally would like to see them get someone with the background with the magnet program, because Dr. Fisher does not have any experience there. But, I mean, he has done some wonderful things for the school. We have improved some things, but it's when there's other issues involved, you have to take the whole thing and look at the whole picture. As far as the Renzulli, I believe that something is better than nothing. We could have taken the money for the pilot program and utilized that training. And then if we decided that Renzulli wasn't the way to go, we could have gotten rid of it. We do not have to go charter on that, which we found out. So there was a lot of things that we didn't know, and with all respect to the whole board, that's the problem. We don't get it in writing. And you kind of want to know what you're reading and where you're going, what you're committing to.
I would agree with that.
And will the money follow the program?
Well, those are certainly important considerations, and you know, I think with the school board as well as general government, often information is laid out. Often at the 11th hour, where not inadequate amount of time has been given to digest and evaluate what you're being asked to vote on.
Well,
And it sounds like this may be one of those
also agree with
issues.
me on this.
Yes, I
We have
agree.
asked for
Salary addendum.
for transfers in our budget. Where are we on this line? Where are we? You know, not exactly everything that's spent, but are we in good shape? Are we in good shape? Because we have had the threat of closing the schools early. We have had the threat of children coming that weren't coming. I mean, there's been so many things thrown at us that it's kind of unfortunate, but there's a mistrust there. So I just think it is unfortunate, and I wish Dr. Fisher the best in his future endeavors, but I hope the board that gets elected in November will take a serious look at what we need for this district as far as running magnet schools.
That's a very good point, and if it's the commitment's been made to go in that direction, it's incumbent upon the community to work towards success. Failure should not be an option.
Right, and
Absolutely.
to
Well,
the
thank you guys, and have a great night.
Well, thank you for the call.
calling. To the point of finances, if there's a transfer of more than $25,000 from one line item to another, for example, you have a surplus in one category of expenditures and you have a deficit. We often run a deficit in special education, as you know, because we have to pay by law. We're obligated to make accommodations for certain students, and if we can't do that locally, then we need to send the student to a facility where that accommodation can take place.
Often out of district.
Often out of district. We're working to bring down that number of students that are sent out of district, but it's often a deficit area. And how is the deficit made up? By taking money from other expenditure categories. And so the way we keep track of that is if there's a transfer of more than $25,000, we are told about it and we vote on it during a regular business
Now, is
meeting.
that done before or after the fact?
No, it's done before. They have to, the business office has to look ahead and say, look, we're going to need to transfer this money, we better get this on the agenda. As far as we had a finance committee meeting about 2 weeks ago, and we were told that we should we should be okay in finishing the year if there are no unforeseen expenditures insofar as students coming in from another district or that need special services. So we should be able to finish the year financially with, last year it was a surplus of unexpended funding of about $11,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's pretty tight when you consider a $40 million budget.
It sure is. It's almost insignificant. One thing I wanted to ask you, Bill, getting back to the superintendent's contract.
Yes.
With the vote, which was 6-1, is a rather, I think, significant vote in terms of the strength that the majority pulled together on. And that is, with the special master's presence in our educational system.
Yes.
Did he have any role in this, or was he even at the meeting?
He was absent.
He was not at the meeting.
That's correct.
Had he offered any insight from his perspective on this particular topic, individually or collectively to the board?
Only if something illegal was about to be done. The board, when it voted 6-1 not to renew the contract, was perfectly within its
Rights to do so?
rights to do so, legal rights to do so, and that vote cannot be overturned unless someone who voted in the majority reconsiders and asks for the vote to take place again.
Just based upon, and my knowledge of this is primarily via the day, which is not necessarily the absolute best source, but
No, it's one of a number of sources. You can't really go with just one source.
but my point being is that the lack of presence by the special master for what I would look at as a defining vote of this board, not being there, I was surprised. And to a degree, I can almost say he's throwing the board under the bus, because the board has been getting beat up pretty good on the editorial page for this action.
Normally, this type of discussion takes place in executive session. Whenever you have discussions about labor issues, they take place in executive session, not open to the public.
The superintendent was within his right to be in public session.
Right, he asked for a public session, so it was discussed openly. I think at the most, Dr. Adamowski might have said, look, you vote the way you feel. You vote to believe what is the best choice, but I'd like you to remember X, Y, and Z. We're doing this, but that in mind, vote what you feel is the best way to go. And the board made that vote, and he would have had really nothing else to say.
So
he cannot overturn the vote because it has to do with a labor issue.
Prior to then, he offered no counsel on this issue.
No, not publicly. I don't know if he privately spoke with anyone.
Now, also regarding votes, we just discussed the Renzulli Academy and with the Gifted and Talented program, and that was just last week.
That's correct, last Thursday.
Has Dr. Adamowski been advocating for this? Was he there at that meeting to offer guidance and counsel?
His representative, Gabriel Ramos, was there, who works for the state, but Dr. Adamowski was not at Thursday's meeting.
During the course of this discussion, and I don't necessarily mean just last week, but since it's been initiated, has Dr. Adamowski been advocating for this program, or has he been tepid?
I have heard through a third party that he supports the Renzulli Academy. I do not remember him specifically addressing the board publicly or privately in support of Renzulli, either way. But I understand he does support the idea. Again, I don't remember him addressing the board on this issue, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Folks, we're getting down to our last 5-10 minutes, so if you'd like to get involved with the program, this is a good time.
Get with the program.
Get with the program and get on the program. This is City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm joined tonight by Bill Morse from the New London Board of Ed. If you'd like to join us, the numbers are on the screen, locally at 860-440-3154. Or if you're out of the calling area, we can be reached at 800-253-2285. I recognize that you've got still another half a year to serve on the board until the new board is installed.
That's correct.
In early December. And things can certainly change between now and then. But assuming, for conversational purposes only, that you stand with your current position, that you're not going to seek re-election, that in your 5.5 years on the board, are there things that you've done or been a part of that you feel especially proud of? That there are, what would be, Bill Morse's legacy as a member of the New London School Board after 3 terms here, as we transition into a whole new concept?
Giving support where it was needed, supporting certain administrative appointments. We had 3 very weak leaders at the middle school, one of our elementary schools, and the high school. We no longer have weak leadership at those schools. And by consequence, I think we have stronger instruction at those schools. No one manipulates things by themselves. They support, or they may bring up an idea, but it's a team effort. The board is only effective when you have the majority hopefully pulling for the right choice, pulling in the right direction towards better instruction, improved academics. I think if there was one thing that I'm happy I did, and that was support and increased presence of the state with our board and with our administration. And through that increased presence, that increased assistance with the board and the administration, ushering in this magnet plan that I see is the only way for New London to sustain a viable school system, that the school system it needs and the school system it deserves.
When does this magnet school district kick in? I mean, is it school by school?
It's school by school. The last piece to fall in will be the middle and the high school. The high school needs renovation, and the plans for a renovation will have to follow this idea of pathways K through 12.
Is it going to be renovation, or is it going to be a new building, a new plant?
Whatever is more economically feasible. And when I say that, I'm thinking, and this is something neither you nor I or anybody local has control over, remediation costs. We ran into $900,000 in additional spending at Nathan Hale. Why?
Caulk.
Because of PCP and the caulking and the state requirement that the masonry be removed around this caulking. What happens when you remove too much masonry? You compromise the integrity of the walls. The walls had to be shored up. We didn't know that there was that much PCB, because once you start digging, you're in it for the whole thing. There's no such thing, I've been told, as survey. Look here and look there to see if there's PCBs. Once you open it up, you're bound by state law to remediate it.
Well, Bill, it looks like we're in fade mode. I want to thank you for coming in tonight. It's been a good conversation. As always,
Marty.
I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next week on City Focus. Good night.